It's good to see you again.
So this is what the roads are going to look like for this series, and we're going to use the alleyway road as a template for this series, which we then create in Road Builder. So if we open up Road Builder and take a look, because you'll notice I've added these extra crosswalks here, which don't really make any sense. I'm just using it as a visual reference to show you that these two roads are different segments. So the way that this works, because I want to obtain basically the most realistic roads I can for North American and especially smaller towns, they have a very distinct look in the roads that is hard to replicate when using actual roads. So we're going to do fully custom sidewalks here, and it's going to create a really cool result. If you take a look on screen here, this is a result from a city called Pine Grove, which is a Midwest build we do over on Twitch. And as you can see, the roads look very realistic. And it will match to the template of something like Lethbridge or Alberta. It sort of captures this smaller town road. So in Road Builder, the way that this looks is we're using two segments here. And this is just going to be your base template, right? Your two-way roads. One's marked, one's not marked. And we could sort of adapt this to multi-lane roads, highways, avenues, whatever the build or that area of town requires. We can take this method through Road Builder and adapt it and build it out as needed, and then we create the sidewalks custom. Now, this is quite time-consuming, the detailing that goes with it and is associated with it, but the results are more than worth it, because again, this series is going to be very slow-paced. We're going to go at sort of a block by block, so instead, you know, in other city channels, you'll see, here's downtown in one episode, or here's this massive port in one episode. That's not this series. We're going to give it some Canadian flavor and take it nice and slow, small town building, and you'll essentially get to know every block of this city per episode. And so the idea is to try and do one detailed block per episode as opposed to one massive thing, and I'm going to do it my way instead of it trying to, I don't know, it felt like in other videos I would definitely rush it and the results weren't as good. This is going to be a very highly detailed series. I want this to kind of be some of the most realistic roads on YouTube for City Skylines 2, as well as one of the most realistic detailed series out there. So if we open this up in Road Builder, these are the connection pieces. So they will look like your normal road minus the sidewalk that the regular roads that you get in vanilla come with, because this is using the alleyway. So you go shoulder, empty lane set to 3, and the reason why I do this is so that I can add parking. Now you might be wondering, well, you've got parking right here, and this also equals 3 meters in length. The issue with that is I want full customization. So if I want 3 parking spaces and a curb cutout for a drive-through for your McDonald's or whatever it is, or your downtown where there's 3 spots there, maybe an accessibility parking spot, you know, like just I want full customization. So by adapting this, I can add in the parking where I see fit, but I can also make the sidewalk as wide up to this dark shadow. So that dark shadow denotes where the vehicles are driving, right? Your classic road wear that you get in this game. And so you could basically build, so it's giving me enough space to add parking here. But in this case, it's added the shoulder now to the side here. So this side right here becomes a walking lane, and then this could be whatever I want. I could do, you know, a grass median where the curb cuts in that you'll see in small towns and becomes, you know, flowers, grass, stuff like that. But it just gives me that customization. So you go 1 shoulder length, 3 meters for the empty lane, and then here's your drive lane, and you do the same thing on the other side. Now what you do over here is same width, because you want to, you know, want the roads to look the same, but we replace that shoulder with another empty lane. And then this allows me to do, so if we come in here with a surface, huge shout out to Generic Lemons who made these incredible concrete surfaces. This is going to be the go-to sidewalk surface. So I'll draw it out here first. We'll go like this for a width. I can then take this via move it and place this wherever I want. So if I want to move that slightly off, I can. So we can put that surface off there, and then it creates this grass cutout Now, I'm going to go in with a better grass texture here in, I think this is Real Vision decals. Yeah, Real Vision surfaces. The decals are on PDX mods now, which is awesome, but the surfaces are still on, like surfaces and are still on just the GitHub. So you just have to manually download it, but it sounds like he's going to add it soon, which will be super cool. But you can do stuff like this. And so why I keep the crosswalk here is that I can measure it out so I get the right length for where I want the road for where parking would be. So this is where the Sims are going to be walking. So when I pull this in, this curb's going to cut out. So you go through like this all the way here, and then you would essentially drag out another node like this to create your sort of cutout that you would see in small towns. Now, this one's going to be super messy. You're going to see a much more detailed version coming up here, but that gives you kind of the idea, right? And then, yeah, you'd want to round this with the curb and whatnot and line that up a little bit better. But this creates kind of the look for these more realistic roads here. And so we can like pull that down if we want, pull this down over here, and sort of go crazy with it and do whatever sort of size we want. And it really gives you that full customization and makes the roads look really, really good. Now, the one downside is curbs, right? Now, I feel like this might be hit or miss with some people. People are either going to love this or they're going to hate this. They're going to be like, you lose the depth. I get it, you know, because there are some drawbacks to this method. I mean, the main drawback being that, yes, it's super time consuming. For me, it's kind of like therapy. This is super relaxing. I don't mind it that much. But yes, you do lose the depth with the curbs doing it this method. Now, again, I think it's worth it personally because of how realistic it ends up looking. But that's how we would do the curbs of the road. Now, you can do things to sort of trick the eyes. So, of course, once this is done, too, by the way, you can remove the crossing there. I would also, too, as you can see, these crosswalks are super close together. I would come in like this with move it and just pull that out slightly. Pull this one out slightly. And if you hold left alt, it snaps to the center line. Super useful. So pull that out just so you can keep everything sort of nice and straight there. Pull that one and then this one here. And then lastly, we'll pull... Actually, that one looks fairly good, yeah. Again, this is going to be a messy, quick little tutorial, whereas the actual build that you'll see in this episode will show it to you a little bit better. But that's what that would look like, right? So that becomes your sort of intersection there, and you build up in detail around it. And that's how we're going to do the roads in this build. Again, to blend in the curb a little bit, to give it this... It basically tricked the eyes into making it look like it has depth, because I know that's going to be the big drawback for people, is that they like the depth that the curbs add. I do too, but it's just, it doesn't give me, like, there's no curb cutouts, the curbs don't, you know, there's just like a lot of things for a detailer that make me less pleased with it. So if we use this decal here, texture 131, roadside curb, and we go like this, boom, that to me gives it a little bit of side depth. So if you look at it from that angle, it gives a little bit of depth to the curbs. Now, a lot of these places as well, too, that we look at on Google Maps for inspiration for this series, they actually don't even have curbs on some of the roads. So the method that we use here ends up looking realistic. It's just for like the older town, like the downtown core. You'd see much higher curbs. But once we get out, this road method that we use ends up looking one-to-one because of the way that they do the curves, and lots of them don't even have... I mean, lots of the suburban streets don't even have sidewalks, right? So this method becomes much more attainable the further out we get from downtown. So downtown's where we got to do a little bit more trickery to make the sidewalks look a little bit more believable. But yeah, this will be the method that we're using. So that's a quick little tutorial on the roads that we're using, and you'll see me adapt that around. When we do create new roads, I will show them off in a road builder, so that if you are following along, you can match that build layout. But I wanted to hop in here and give you all a tutorial on the roads, because if I just place these, I know a lot of people would have questions as to what in the heck are you doing? But that is the road breakdown. Oh, and if you see it like this too, some people may have had these issues with using manipulation mode. As you can see, if it's not on a perfectly flat surface, it can get kind of jank like that. Now, luckily, we're built in Alberta, which, well, it does have some rolling hills. It's not as flat as something like Saskatchewan, but... you know, you can always come in with move it like this. Or you can slope them as well, too, in manipulation mode. But if we flatten that, that'll look a little bit better there. So that, yeah, sort of comes together. And then you can flatten the terrain here to get that a little bit flatter down. But that's how we're going to do the roads here. So, again, this is going to be a block-by-block kind of series where we're going really slow. So I know that this series won't maybe be for everybody, but this is going to be here's how a heavy detailer plays the game. And hopefully you learn something along the way of, you know, cool, this is how, like, if you ever see those screenshots and you're like, whoa, that looks so realistic. How did they do that? That's the goal of this build series, is to showcase a little bit of small town Alberta while also showing you how a detailer like myself creates these realistic looking builds. So I hope that tutorial was helpful to some of you, and it feels really, really good to be back making videos again. Just needed a little bit of a break. It felt like I was kind of just all over the place with a bunch of new series and starting too much. So I'm going to try and take this back to basics and take it all the way back to some of the city skylines 1 days, 1 build, couple tutorial videos here and there, and probably some tutorials throughout the series like we did at the start of this video here. And yeah, get back to the classic Moose formula. So I hope you're all excited for that. And we're going to take it even slower here with this series, as I mentioned, going nice and slow, block by block, and really just making this a beautifully detailed city. You know, city building's not a race, and by the time this build is, or even the downtown is complete, it's going to be so worth it for the time that we put into this project. So I'm just coming in here and adding more of those surfaces, and those will be, I'm not going to show all the footage from the surfaces that we do here, only enough stuff for you to see. A lot of it gets sort of like repetitive, so I'll show how the process is done once, and then we could cut over it. Otherwise, you'd be watching, you know, a 45-minute video with tons of repeats of the same stuff. You all get the idea of how these are built with the surfaces and the lines for the paths and the grass there. So I've also come in with the net lane curb here. A huge shout out to G87. Pretty much G87 booty. Anybody who makes decals and assets, or decal assets and surfaces for this game have made this whole thing possible. Not to mention movement. Movement is absolutely crucial to what we do. But I use a lot of these curbs. You'll see a lot of curb pieces that like this one that you'll see here now. We use it as almost like a ruler of sorts. So you'll see a lot of curb pieces that vanish, or that I used once and you're like, oh, where did that curb go? I was likely just using it as a ruler for the surfaces, and then once I was done, I went ahead and got rid of it. But yeah, it's super useful since I don't have a like a ruler asset yet, so I just used that net lane curve for it. Turning that intersection into a traffic light section. I don't know what the proper term there is for, but I have a version of Anarchy that allows me to put the traffic lights on the correct side of the road for North American builds, and there are some quirks to it. There are some issues, so you might see me experiment with it. For this episode, I kept them how it is, how Colossal Order intended, but you might see the traffic lights swap the sides of the roads that they're on as I test different stuff out. It's just got a few quirks with it, a few little fun features that make it not the most viable thing, which is why Yen has not pushed that update out. But I've found some ways to work around some certain things, so you might see that happen. And if you've seen my screenshots on Reddit, you would have seen the traffic lights on that side of the road. I've done a lot of experimenting with it, and it's super fun. Yen is an awesome modder who's given me a lot of cool beta mods to test out and try things out with and break them in beautiful ways. So what you're seeing there is the result of the surfaces. So that's what the intersection looks like when it's done. And this method, yes, it is quite time consuming. Every road is going to be hand built. It's custom roads. But the results, and I think you're already starting to see it, or maybe not. Maybe you think I'm crazy and that this is silly and that this takes too long. How could anybody build like this? And that's fair. That's totally fair. I get it. It is kind of crazy, but I think the results are worth it because you end up with this product that just looks, honestly, in my opinion, it creates some of the most realistic roads that I've seen done for this game, at least for the North American style theme. And then we come into the alleyway, and I'm using this overgrown decal. And once the decals are placed, I go in with some foliage to cover up the grass part of the decal, just to add a little bit of depth to it. Because the decal looks great, but it is rather flat looking. And so anything I can do to give it a little bit of a pop. And then we're just dragging down the surfaces and the curb to line it up with the alleyway decal. And then you're going to see me create a curb cutout. So this is my curb cutout method. drag the surface down. Certain surfaces go over top of the sidewalks. For ones that don't, I would do 2 pieces of the sidewalk surface. Since this one, the surface I'm using covers the sidewalk, I can get away with one fluid sidewalk surface because it'll be covered by the asphalt. And then we're just going to touch up the curbs here around it. Now, I used to go with a solid curb where it hit, but I think that this looks a little bit better going with 2, like basically cutting the curb in half there, just like cutting out the middle portion and leaving it open so that this surface from the parking lot lines up with the road, and I think it ends up looking better. So here I come in with this bush, I think it's like a little garden bush that I'm sticking down, and you might notice in my Find It tab that the one I'm using looks a little bit different because it's got this blue icon on it, and that's because it's a prop version, and the reason being is I can color it to any color I want. So I'm going with this drier grass look to try and capture the look of the rolling prairies that you see throughout Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. And with that, I wanted to sort of make it like look closer to the grass that we have. If I use a plant, every version of that plant will become this color. And you know, you might think, okay, yeah, well, that's fine because you're using it everywhere there, so don't want it to be the same color, but it's every version. So you would see ones that I placed that I wanted to be green and lush would become this color. Ones that I wanted, or with assets, like every version of that on the map would become this color. So not the most ideal, but StarQ has an awesome mod that gives us every tree as a prop, allowing me to create, to color them any color I want. And you're going to see me use this quite a bit because it allows me to make blue spruces, which are very, very common in Alberta, especially like Calgary has tons. I noticed on Google Maps, Lethbridge has tons. So starting with this building here, I changed the color of that to give it this wood aesthetic because, like, if we're going to do a fast food chain right off the rip here, there's only one fast food chain that it could be, and it's got to be good old Tim Hortons. It wouldn't be a Canadian Moose series if the first building we detailed wasn't something truly Canadian, and the Tim Hortons just felt like the perfect thing here, especially with this being, you know, near it's on a major road that's going to connect to the highway. You got to have that Tim Hortons. It's going to be a major road where people come through. So I was messing around with the decals here to try and get the look. It might be a little bit too much, right? It's 3 logos for the Tim Hortons, but I think, like, look at that shot. I think it looks awesome. And you'll see me zoom out and show off all 3 of them on the building. Yeah, that looks sick. Like, I really like the look of that. And then the old, still paying homage to the retro Tim Hortons with the old logo on the side. Huge shout out to Hobble that made these decals, because they also included the classic tap into more rewards, and little things like this just make the whole build look so, it basically makes it feel more alive and more realistic by having those little posters there. Now it's time to get started on the suicide lanes. So the net lane itself is actually a vanilla net lane, which is cool, so that's in the game. And then I just added the little arrow decals to denote that, hey, it's a suicide lane, so come in, use it. Super dangerous, by the way. Those are not great urban infrastructure designs, but it's realistic nonetheless, so you gotta have it. And now I'm coming in with the final piece to make my road method work, and this is invisible pedestrian paths. And so this goes in where I put the sidewalk down and allows pedestrians to walk. And then this is why we're using, as mentioned at the start here, so this is why we're using 2 road segments. So one segment at the intersection, which has a shoulder, it allows you to add crossings. If you don't have a shoulder on the road at an intersection, pedestrians cannot cross. And if you draw an invisible pathway through, they can walk whenever. It doesn't matter what the traffic lights say, so it really breaks the immersion and the realism. So going in there with invisible pathways, they connect into the shoulder, and then the shoulder functions like a normal road that you would place in this game. And you're going to see me, so the surface for the main road there, for Stafford Road, it's going to change many times throughout this episode. I could not decide. The one that's on now is the one that I end up going with, but I switch it back yet again to the beige. I really like the look of beige, but I feel like beige highways like that is a very American thing. I really haven't seen that much in Canadian cities. Feel free to comment below if I'm incorrect. I'm sure there's probably some example of it in Canada. It's just not as frequent, I don't think, as what I've seen in America there. So you saw those little buildings over there. I just placed them so we could get some people in our city and get them moving around to make sure that the net lanes I'm doing, or sorry, the invisible paths that I'm doing are working. They should be on paper. This has worked many times, but I like to see it just to make sure, because those invisible pathways can be a bit finicky. So I just want to assure that, okay, yep, they're working. We did them correctly. This is fine. So those houses are over there. And here's a quick little overview of everything that we've gotten in so far. I'm really liking this start. I think we've got a beautiful start going here that is Albertan without, again, I don't want this to be a one-to-one of Lethbridge, because the map we're using is based on Lethbridge, but I want it to be an Albertan city, and an Albertan town of sorts, or like a medium city, not as big as Calgary, and probably not as big as actual Lethbridge, because I want to do smaller scattered towns around the map, but a quaint little, maybe it'll be a big city, who knows. And then we're adding some power lines into the alleyway there. And then another key piece for this is I use these level terrain assets, and I use this to flatten the terrain to help get rid of, and I try to use it just near the edge here, so we still get some hills, because you still want depth. You don't want everything to be flat. It's not realistic, but it's to help blend the path where it meets the road, to get rid of those blue tears in the fabric, because the terrain is really goofy in this game where roads meet, and you'll see these little tears where you can see down below the map. So using level terrain assets helps prevent that. And now it's time to grimify the alleyway. And now that that's done, I wanted to try adding in some dead foliage there. So we're going to add in that dead spruce tree. And here is where I create the blue spruce. So again, we grab that prop tree, sink it down a bit too. It gives it that nice, like, really makes it look like a spruce with the spruce base there. And then try to find that nice blue, almost like teal-esque color for it. So I'm going to tweak it a bit here and see if I can find the right color for it. And once that's done, you just basically paste that all over, and you can add that to any of those trees that you add. But look at that. Oh, so good. And then this brick building really looked like a Canada Post sort of, I don't know, like, I guess a facility, I don't know, Canada Post stuff. I don't know what they'd be doing this building. Sorting mail, pickups, drop-offs, I guess. But this building just looked really good with the Canada Post logo on it. And like that red strip around the brick, it looked like a Canada Post building to me, so I went ahead and added those, and I figured let's keep the Canadian vibes flowing at this intersection, make it like the most Canadian intersection at Tim Hortons, Canada Post, TELUS building here. Gotta have that big TELUS ad in the back as well too. Like that completes that building, getting that billboard in the back. And now it's time to add some lights. So a lot of these buildings, or I think all of these buildings do come with lights, but I delete them with Better Bulldozer, because I like controlling my build. I like to have the control to place everything and make it all look really nice. And then we're going to tweak some more colors on these trees. We don't have a lot of tree assets, and so using these big trees as well that are from, Crypto Gamer, I believe, made them. on Paradox Mods. If you search up Big Tree, you'll be able to find it, but they are also props, and because of that, I can go ahead and color them. And then we're adding in a tattoo studio on the side there, and you're going to see me paste this tattoo studio sign all over the place. I use it as a backdrop base to put a decal on top of it so that the decal gets a bit of depth with an actual signboard there. So we went with the Flores Meat Market and the Furniture Emporium. And I don't know about you, but furniture stores in Canada, at least in Western Canada or in Vancouver where I'm at, but it was the same in Kamloops, they're always closing. I don't know what it is, but furniture stores, especially specialty ones, they never, ever, ever seem to last. Like, every time I see a store closing sign, oh, yep, it's a furniture store. What do you know? So we're adding a curb beside that corner store there, or sorry, not even a corner store, a strip mall is what it would be. And then I curbed it in so that we leave an open front here. So basically the front of the corner store, or strip mall, that strip mall pavement connects directly in with the road, and then we just finish off the surfaces there. And I try to figure out one that looks good because it looked a little bit better if the surface of the strip mall was different than the road. Add an alleyway to the back and some parking for the employees at the TELUS building. And then just a simple little surface just to give it a little paved area there. It's light parking, and I'm going to put a empty lot beside this building, like an empty pavement lot. I'd imagine that in the back would also be staff parking, and then you'd want more parking for that building, right? So more parking for more employees, but then also visitors too. So we'll have an empty lot beside it that we don't get to in this episode, but that'll likely serve as more parking because the parking in the back of that building wasn't really that much. But yeah, right here, you'll see me add an empty lot there and an empty lot here. Really want to capture the loads of surface parking that you can find in a lot of these areas. And then, yeah, add in this sort of, this like side edge decal. Gives depth to the curbs, and it looks really, really good. And then we're going to add signs to the corner store here. So once again, using that tattoo studio one. So we've got the one-stop deli and grocery, a smoke shop. I went for sort of the iconic ones that you'd see in a building like this. Gotta have the liquor store. Gotta have that. And a little phone repair shop next to it. And then, of course, the one on the corner for lease. You hate to see it, but there had to be, one that's available for sale, and smoke shop, food place, liquor place. So tried to capture like the iconic stuff that you'd see at a strip mall like this. And then we're going to cover it in a bunch of these smaller decals, and they just completely change the look of this and give it that extra pop. Like the signs on their cells are great. They add awesome realism to it, makes it look really nice. But you slap in a couple more of these decals in the windows, which you'll only really see when you're up close to it. And my God, does it just complete the whole look and give it that extra little pop of realism. And then you got to have some bollards around here. And once the bollards are in, there's always, especially at strip malls like this, the bollards, like either, I guess it's just from like a vehicle crashing into it, right? But the bollards, there's always a couple bollards that are bent or damaged to some degree. So I wanted to capture that here using this sort of, it's like a built-in PO. It's kind of like the thing you see in Planet Coaster games there that allows you to sort of move an object sideways, push it over. And then we're going to clean up the alleyway here with some more detailing. So I put in a muscle car in the back there that looked really good behind it. I'd imagine it's an employee because it's right behind the smoke shop. So that's why I also put that one there, because it's like the employee's car at the smoke shop. It's got this hip little muscle car, and then you got the Isuzu box truck. They're rather common in Vancouver. I don't know if Isuzu box trucks are as common in Alberta, but they're very common in Vancouver, and that truck looked just like it, so I had to put one of those in the back alley there and some cones around it, and then, yeah, trash decals. But we're nearing the end of this episode, so I'm going to leave you with some finishing detailing touches. And then there's no live play in this episode because the build's kind of small. So live plays will come out once we get a little bit more to show off here. But yeah, we'll head to the outro cinematic. So I'll leave you with a little bit of detailing. We'll head to the outro. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this episode. And feels really, really good to be back. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you want to help support the content I make, get save game access and early access to my videos, consider supporting me on Patreon. I'm Canadian Moose, and this was Moose County, Alberta.